Hello, I'm Rob Saunders, the Renewables Leader for Calibre Group, based in Brisbane, Australia. Now, this decade has started particularly challenging for us all, but having said that, I firmly believe once it gets going, it's going to be the decade of renewables. It's a decade where new clean technology is going to come to the fore, and Australia is well placed to accommodate that. Now, let's talk about where we are. So Australia has met its 33,000 gigawatt hours target in the year 2020. But the state and territories have also set targets for their own specific renewable activity. For example, in Queensland, they're seeking to get 50% renewables by 2030, and they're currently sitting around 25. So that's a big jump, almost it's double for 9 years. New South Wales, they have a net zero target by 2050. Again, quite significant and ambitious. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunity in this space. Now, Australia as a nation is currently at about 24% renewables, 76% fossil fuel, 50% of which is around coal. So we're a coal-based economy, of course, and that's why we're sitting where we are. Having said that, the Australian government are very aggressive and have recently launched the Technology Investment Roadmap, which aligns with Calibre's strategic plan regarding renewables and technology. This roadmap has three horizons: short, medium and long term. I just want to talk about some of those. So in the short term, the key areas of activity are increased investment in renewables, pumping more dollars into the economy. And as we come out of the COVID-19 scenario that we're currently in, I believe the stimulus is going to be around sustainability, which can benefit us all. Secondly, it's about the boost in new technologies, things like hydrogen. That's why we're seeing grants coming out quite commonly with people like ARENA to stimulate that sector. And that's very fundamental to us because we've got a lot of opportunity in that space. The medium-term strategy is about electrification of fleet, buses and cars. And as an example of that, there was a recent announcement only last week regarding a 100 hydrogen bus program co-funded by ARENA. There's exciting times in that space. The second area of innovation is carbon capture. Now that's exciting. People like Coal21, who are financed by the resource sector, are looking at ways to extract carbon from their industrial processes and either store them or use them in synthetic fuel with bioreactors. So that's an exciting technology and one I'm monitoring, and I believe it'll play a role in the future here in Australia. Over the longer term, the key aspect is hydrogen and getting export. Australia is a food bowl for generating solar. We have one of the highest irradiances in the world. And we also have physical space. So our ability to produce hydrogen, green hydrogen, and export it to other parts of the globe, such as Korea and Japan and China, is real impressive. And that's why people like Dr. Alan Finkel are pushing that pretty aggressively here in Australia. Now, of course, in everybody's career, you want to be in the right place at the right time. And it's exciting for me as an employee of Calibre that our strategic plan set by our executives aligns with the government roadmap in these technologies. It really does, and it's exciting to be part of it. Now, as part of this roadmap, the government reviewed multiple different technologies, but they identified many key ones, and they're not surprising in many respects. One of them, of course, is hydro, which the Snowy 2.0 we're investing in. Secondly, there's solar. So solar farms, not immune to everybody. There's plenty of them being built at the moment. 59, I believe, are under construction as I speak. And we have expertise in this space and are currently working on a 100 megawatt farm in central Queensland. It's exciting as an engineer to be part of that. The other one is wind. So whilst with the limitations with wind due to the velocity of air that we have over here in Australia, plus the demographics and the logistics of where wind can be generated, there's still opportunities in some locations, and once again I believe that'll become more to the fore going forward. Secondly, in the fleet space, I mentioned earlier hydrogen. There's a big growth in hydrogen vehicles, primarily coming out of Toyota and Hyundai, and also buses, which I also touched upon. In the next few years, we're going to see more and more of those hitting the streets in Australia. In fact, 28 hydrogen vehicles from Hyundai arrived in the port in Victoria only this week, according to a colleague of mine. So it's exciting times for that. Secondly, the electrification of cars, electric vehicles. Whilst they may be challenging on long distances, which we do here in Australia, for city use around the Sydneys and the Melbournes and the Brisbanes, they're ideal, and that's what we're seeing in the London and Parises of the world as well. So I believe more of that will come going forward. And thirdly, in buildings, the office I'm standing in now consumes a lot of energy. Around 60% will come from the heating and cooling. So technologies like geothermal is now coming to the fore. My colleague Mark Langdon in Calibre will be pleased to talk to you about that. So using that one technology can reduce consumption considerably, which means the farm or the power cable coming into the building can be considerably smaller. Also BIPV, or building integrated photovoltaics, where you swap one building component for something that generates power, such as a piece of glass or some cladding. You imagine sitting in your office between 9 and 5 and you're sitting there and the glass is generating power whilst you're working. How good is that? So these technologies are going to come forward much more in the next decade, and I want to be part of it, and with Calibre and the support we have from the top, we can. Thank you very much.